Yep.
Ready?
They found us. I don't know how, but they found us. This is Overthinkr in 2025. We're back after a little hiatus, as one does over the holidays and all of that. Stoked to be back here with Jarek and Sara from Threshold Brewing. How are you guys doing?
We are good.
I'm stoked you're here.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, that's awesome.
Beer friends and real life friends. This is just probably going to be the most unscripted, most laid back episode yet. We do have stuff to talk about. There are things to discuss and get into. We want to talk a bit today about just the state of the industry, how things are going, and what breweries are doing to keep chugging along during these different times. Talk about what's going on with those different times, what's making them different, and go from there. But yeah, we'll get into all of that. I don't know. How are you guys doing?
Great.
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 Hanging in there? Okay.
It's almost January's almost over.
That is a good thing. I know coming into February, you guys have your anniversary is in February.
We
yes?
do.
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah. Well, let's jump right into it. Tell us the details of that.
Okay. It's on Saturday, the 8th of February. It's our 6th anniversary, which
I can't believe it's been 6 years.
I know. Like you say
Right.
6, and it sounds like it's not a lot, right? But it's like a lot in beer. It's a lot in beer years. And the years that we covered
is.
were
Because
intense.
6 years goes back before COVID, which
Yeah.
in and of itself is just something that feels like a longer time than it really is.
It was also
Yeah.
no time. It was
Longer and slower at the same time, you know?
Right.
I almost hate to bring up COVID at this point because it's it's so depressing to rehash.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it happened.
It is. And COVID changed a lot. I mean, there's good things. There's silver lining with COVID, for sure. But it changed a lot of the industry. I think from you guys can probably even attest to opening in 2019.
Yeah.
If that's how math works, right? 2019, you guys got started, opened up. What you thought this was going to be, what you thought Threshold was going to be versus what Threshold is today, how's that differ?
I was thinking about that earlier today a little bit because when we opened, our model was so different than what it is now and what it has to be now. But 6 years ago, it was reasonable to open with zero canning, zero immediate plans for canning, and basically a model focused on tap room success. Mm-hmm. We did some draft distribution, but getting through that first year, going into the second year, there weren't immediate plans to start canning at all, and COVID kicked that into the fast track and high gear.
Yeah,
I think it did that for a lot of people.
Yeah.
When we were opening, we were noobs in the industry. We didn't have any previous experience. We're just passionate about craft beer and making and creating great space for people and just rolling with it. And we thought we're gonna have a relatively difficult but easy, smooth sailing, and then 13 months later, all of a sudden we have shutdowns and
Right.
nobody goes out anymore for we thought 2 weeks, then 4 weeks,
Sure.
and it ended up being
Months and months and months
months and months at a time. Yeah.
It was so we first kind of met you because of COVID, because I was like,
directly cause and effect
yeah.
was.
I mean, we would have eventually, I guess, but my first like impression of you was like going live on Facebook for your like backyard or like your driveway happy hours or something,
Yep.
and like connecting people.
Yep.
And that's when I first remember like
Well, that's
kind of
what led to
clocking
this.
you. Yeah.
Like what we're sitting here doing right now.
Yeah.
It like was birthed out of the beer nerds virtual pubs, we called
Yeah.
them, which was for 92 days straight. My wife and I. It was usually both of us, but sometimes it was just me, just depending on scheduling. And but we would go live. Usually from our driveway, but sometimes from a brewery. It was just an effort to like keep things going. But I had actually met you guys briefly, and maybe even before you'd opened. I don't know exactly what the timeline is, but at Oregon Brewers Fest 2019, which was like the last real Oregon Brewers Fest that actually happened at the scale we're used to it happening, right?
Yeah.
I remember, meeting you guys. I was with Ezra from New School Beer, and he introduced me to you guys as avid cyclists who
we arrived on our bikes that day.
Yeah, you were in bike gear. I remember helmets and things, and it was that either you were opening a brewery or you were
thinking about opening.
Had opened a brewery.
This would have
been
I guess we've
July
been like,
2019.
So we were like 6 months in.
Oh, so you'd been open
but again,
then.
it was like Jarek said, we just had no industry experience before that, and so the first year was just full of like meeting people for the first people that have known each other, people that had already gone way back, and we were just trying to like say hi.
Yeah, trying to transition from like seeing you on the other side as being an insider, us as like beer lovers and followers, customers, and now we're on the same side, except you have 5-10 years of experience just doing that thing.
Which, by the way, I don't think that a brewery could do that right now. Like, open as home brewers with no connections.
I tend to agree, because I think it was even unique at the time what you guys were doing. We're live from Vice Beer, by the way, which is a very dog-friendly establishment.
No,
I'm sure the microphones are picking up lots of dogs. Yeah, they're just out on the patio, and I don't know whose dogs they are, but they're excited. I think they're actually barking at us.
No.
They want to be on the show.
I've heard that the last keg of lager kicked, and there's no more lager tonight.
Oh no!
So.
I don't think that's true. I think there's. But anyhow, this is part of doing it live.
Yeah, 2019 was still like a transitioning period for us a little bit as well. I still had like a part-time job, working my day job, and then trying to run the brewery and like brewing and doing other things. So it was interesting. It was still a lot of this, biking.
Like one of the things that makes like Southwest Washington beer unique in a sense is that a lot of our brewers here, while they're connected to the industry now, and it took some work to do that, introductions to things like the North Bank Brewers Alliance and North Bank Beer Week, like kind of brought that about. But like, excuse me, a lot of our breweries were opened by home brewers with no connection to the industry. So that was something we saw a lot of over here, but did not see a lot of in Portland in the last decade, maybe.
That's true, right?
even 15 years. You usually saw part of Portland's kind of boom from like 2008 to 2010 of just like breweries popping up everywhere. It was usually this brewer who used to brew at such and such place is opening a brewery here now, and this brewer from such and such a place, they're opening this brewery over here. There was speaking of dogs, there was this like, what's the word they use for dogs? I just lost it. I had it and then I
The
lost
word
it.
they use for dogs?
For their lineage, they're like
Pedigree.
pedigree. There it is.
Jarek.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for.
I got it,
There
man.
was a sense of pedigree
Yeah.
to brewers, and I think that still happens. You know, you see a new brewery open. I'm sure we're going to talk about Grand Fir and Whitney Burnside more.
I hope so.
Yes, for other reasons, but mostly because I'm drinking a collab of Threshold and Grand Fir here. We'll get to that. But, the excitement about Whitney opening Grand Fir has a lot to do with, Whitney was at Pelican and 10 Barrel, and before
Which
that,
she's done
Elysian.
before, exactly.
She's won awards at all these places. There was already a built-in sort of excitement about Whitney gets to do her own thing. We can't wait to see what happens, when the shackles of whatever are off, when it's just hers. What is it going to be? And of course, it's been amazing.
Spoiler,
Amazing,
great.
yeah.
Spoiler, it's amazing. But yeah, like coming from homebrew, you don't have that pedigree. And you're just kind of, for lack of a better term, kind of thrown to the wolves there, where
Well, the thing is, we didn't know, so it was,
right.
we didn't know what we didn't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys know how much I love Threshold.
Thank you.
Like it's amazing, like the immediate impact you had just kind of out of the gate, like, hey, these guys are doing something different. This is super fun. Super tied into the community in the Montevilla neighborhood. Like there was just this sense of like, oh, this is a neighborhood spot. This is a family
place.
kind of thing going on. For the longest time, it was almost impossible to go to Threshold when the doors were open and not meet one of you two.
Yeah.
Like you were there either behind the bar or present. Like it was just like, yeah, this just feels right. Which is super cool. And I think not everyone made it through COVID. There's a lot of breweries that opened in 2018 and 2019 that are not here
Around
anymore.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
We're sitting in one that
True.
Yeah.
that
Our-
opened
our
early
list.
2020.
And
Yeah.
like I have memories about this place, the brewery that was here before, because during COVID at the beginning, it was one of my stops on the pilgrimage of getting bright cans. When all of a sudden you have to like move all the beer that you have in tanks into packaged stuff so you can actually sell it, right? Yeah, I popped in and the guys hooked me up with some Crowler cans. So
A lot of people don't remember this. I was talking to somebody even this last week, just at the bar, and they were asking about what we canned and what we didn't can, and this and that, and somehow the conversation came up that was like, in 2018, 2019, you didn't see small breweries canning. The idea of a mobile canner was kind of foreign.
So that was it too, and even craft canning, which was our first mobile canner. I think it was because of COVID that they started working with smaller breweries, because before then the threshold was like too high for
Right.
for
they
the-
would require that you
for the quantity that we
do
were
like 200
doing.
cases, which is
Yeah.
like 20 barrels of beer.
Exactly, yeah.
Which like
Yeah. So there were like it's hard to remember now, but there
yeah.
were reasons for why, we weren't like, and you kind of forget about it, but there were reasons why it was prohibitive to can for us in the very beginning.
I think there were a lot of reasons why it was prohibitive to can. I mean, Jarek just was talking about hunting down Brights.
Yeah.
That is empty aluminum cans are called Brights. So you just,
Before the beer
anything's
goes
put
in,
in it,
yeah.
before any labels on it, you have a Bright. And so there was this like hunt for Crowler cans, 32-ounce Crowlers and 16-ounce cans, like. You had to go find people who had already bought some, but then weren't going to can with them and try to get it from them. There was a lot going on with that. That like I know for me with Zeppelin on the marketing and design side, COVID opened up this whole world of designing can labels. Like we had designed 2 can labels ever before 2020. Yeah. And by the end of 2021, like we had designed hundreds of labels and it was just coming in all of the time.
There was like a shift simultaneously too of like a trend away from flagships and more to like popping off new beer after new beer after new beer, which requires infinite labels, infinite names, infinite creativity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was happening at the same time too, I think.
Which I'm still here for.
Yeah.
I still like that about the industry. I like the creativity. I'm still not the type of beer drinker that's like, oh, I love me my what. So I'll say there is one. So I'll just say like Cascadia Kolsch from 5440. I love that beer. That's the one beer
That's your island beer.
like. That's my desert island beer for sure. I'll have it in my fridge. Like I love that beer. Aside from that, I don't want to drink the same IPA every day. I don't want to go to the breweries that I love and find the same stuff on tap. I want different.
I think that's everyone, kind of most people, and I don't think that's. You see it kind of as like a shift back towards people wanting that like tried and true, consistent, something that makes them feel like, oh yeah, like I know this. But I don't think that's the majority, and and like I when we first opened, I remember the question all the time from people coming in was like, "What's your flagship?" And we never get that question
anymore. It took years
anymore.
to actually see what people like, what people ask about,
Yep.
So, and even right now, like half of our tap list are what we call flagships now because we've been around for 6 years. And the other half is like either new or experimental beers. So,
Yeah. I think so. We've talked a lot about the past here, kind of transitioning into like, okay, what's the future hold? As we're moving into 2025. One of the things that I've talked with our mutual friend Jake Watt at Trapdoor. Even in this last couple of weeks, I was talking to him about.
He's so like medaled these days.
Yes, he's very awarded.
I know, he's very successful.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
He's incredible. And he was talking to me about, kind of his approach now that Trapdoor has been around 9 years. And he's like, what I feel like I'm doing now is I'm not so much, completely like he is still like completely recreating and coming out with new recipes, but less of that and a little bit more of going back, and instead of flagships, he called it playing his hits. He's like playing the hits of, hey, I can look back and find like recently they brought back their Normcore IPA, which is like a very Nelson forward West Coast IPA. It's got that New Zealand thing going on.
Yeah.
Like, it's great, but that's a beer that Trapdoor had made even before Jake was there, that now he's brought back, and it's one of those things like, okay, we could do this
and
twice
he
a
put
year.
his spin on it,
Yeah.
which is, I'm sure, great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And-
not like a beer that's just on all year, every year, but just going back and being like, that one did well. Let's bring it back for a season.
Yeah. And I think there's something to that in the future here, into 2025, that is, people need to maybe miss a beer a little bit. Like there needs to be a little bit of planned obsolescence. It's a word that's a term I learned in marketing school a long time ago, when they talked about like how cars are made, like, the technology is there to make the car that needs nothing. Like We could
Right,
make
right.
the
Yeah.
perfect car that
Yeah.
never has to see the shop and just runs for
Yeah.
20, 30 years.
Yeah.
The technology exists, but we don't do that because that would put an entire industry under. You know, if
Yeah.
everybody bought one car and it was just, oh, we're good.
So what's the beer you're depriving your Vice customers of right now?
Both the guys behind the soundboard, that's Zach and Charlie behind the soundboard today. They both said Breakfast Club. Breakfast Club
the
is the
mimosa
mimosa
sour.
sour.
I love the mimosa sour.
Yeah. I'd say the other one is actually one Zach named Linoleum. Linoleum's
After
one
the
that actually after the floor, but indirectly, it's a NoFX song
Oh, okay.
about a guy on the floor, and Linoleum just gives him something to believe in. You know,
On the
'cause
floor.
on the floor.
Yeah.
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 You got a floor. At least I got that. Yeah. So
Sounds delicious.
we actually have a very regular customer that when we have Linoleum on, he comes in, he's like, I'll get Linoleum. And every single time he has to say, I hate the name.
Do you
but
have
tastes so
any
good.
linoleum? Do you have any linoleum?
We don't have Linoleum right
here.
now. No, it's
Not
not.
on tap, not on the floor, not
Not
anywhere.
No Linoleum. No actual linoleum on the floor, and no linoleum. You might say that the floor at Little Vice is technically linoleum. It's some kind of fake plastic floor, but it doesn't look like the linoleum, the kitchen floor that you really want it to look like.
If you told me it was linoleum, I would believe it was linoleum.
Sure.
Probably.
I don't know the actual like strict definition of linoleum. Like, anyhow,
I think it has to be adhesive
but like,
on one side.
so you guys have some beers that people have come to know and stuff. Are there beers like that like certain IPAs that you're like, hey, we'll do this once or twice a year because it has its following and it moves quick, and then you find like, so we have found with several different beers where we're like, oh man, that sold really quick, and then like we follow it up a month later with another batch,
And
that
not
other
so
batch
much.
So
just
that's the
drags.
problem. Like, it might be the best tasting, but if
Yeah.
you know, if you're sending that to your wholesale accounts or like whatever, they already have they already have a case of it. They're ready for something new.
Yep.
So
I think like
yeah.
these days, what we've been noticing is just there are certain styles that have been emerging or coming back, where other styles that were popular
Yeah.
even a year ago, they cannot take the second seat or background beer. So that's what we've been kind of trying to like see, and
And I think like that, like the beers you're talking about, that's so like, are you thinking about like stouts, like bigger stouts?
no,
Like, that's what I was thinking of when you said that.
When,
I mean,
when you
like,
said that, I'm thinking of like amber ales, red ales,
Well, those are the ones that are like
black
coming
IPAs.
back, I think. But
They're
I'm talking
coming
about the
back.
ones that
Yeah.
are like that were selling great and now are like having, they're lagging
Oh, yeah.
behind. Like the bigger stouts is what I was thinking of, but
bigger stouts, I mean, it really depends, right? Who you ask. But like for
yeah.
us, big stouts did pretty good like last couple years. But, we started noticing at the end of the last winter that the sales slowed down a little bit. People still love like a flavored beers, dark beers, but they want something lighter, something more approachable that
Yeah.
they can actually drink at the pub and take a four pack back home.
Right.
That's one of the examples. Another example would be, I mean, we're like hop capital of the world, right?
Yeah.
Vancouver and Portland, and West Coast IPA or clear IPAs are taking over New England style IPAs big time. Like when
Big
somebody comes into the pub to our place, and like 3 years ago it would be like 50-50. Or more on like a New England style IPA. 2 years ago, last year, would be, more asking for West Coast IPA. And these days, when we make, IPAs, it's usually, like in a month, one hazy New England style, and then like 3 or 4 batches of West Coast IPA, because
Yep.
that's what people asked about these days.
I think we're seeing that across
Yeah.
the board for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I remember. I've never been big on hazy IPA, but I know that I loved Threshold's hazy IPA. When you guys made hazy, I loved it. And
Thank you.
I mean,
Good job, Jarek.
that's one of the reasons. So before we even opened Vice, we made Y'all Ready for This together.
Yeah.
It was a
that
good,
was a
fun
double
beer.
hazy.
Double
Yeah.
hazy IPA.
And that was huge for me because it was making a hazy beer with you guys, which was like, look, Mom, I made it. It was like, yeah, this is so cool to make a hazy with Threshold.
That's so.
And it was an incredible.
I remember you guys being there, and we were just like, "Oh my god, they're here with us!" Like we
It
felt
was
so lucky.
just so fun.
Yeah.
And it was a super fun beer. It just
Was that like
it's
3
just-
years ago now, or like?
It's
I
not
guess
quite
2.
3.
I guess 2.
2.5 for
Yeah.
sure.
'Cause it was for your like opening.
It wasn't even. It was like pre-opening.
Yeah.
Because it was like we were licensed, but we weren't actually brewing out of here yet. So it was actually we did a party at your place at the end of May.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
And
now I'm
then-
remembering you
and
in your
then we took
80s
it-
outfit.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we took that beer to Washington Brewers Fest in Seattle because we poured at that festival with only one beer. We had our breakfast club was the one beer that we were able to have on that we actually made. The others were all collabs
Yeah.
that we made
Collabs.
somewhere else.
That's awesome.
Because there was some strategy to that. To like, we needed to get our name out there. We wanted to
Yeah.
like, get a little like pre-excitement going and have these events at other breweries and be like, hey, we're coming, we're opening soon.
Yep.
Of course, we thought we were opening a lot sooner. It ended up being,
As you do.
Yeah, it ended up being mid-August is when we finally got open, and there wasn't a lot of that beer left at that point.
Yeah.
I think it was like just a little bit to be on tap, and like that's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was fun though.
I know.
But where I was
about to ask you actually, could I get the black IPA, please?
we got a beer up,
'Cause
Jarek.
I've heard it's delicious and it's new.
The black IPA is that what you
Yeah.
got? Oh, cool.
We're both drinking your like newest releases. So Black
Cool.
IPA, and then I'm the Goze Conseco.
Goze
Conseco.
which is not how you say goza.
I
at
know,
all.
but you have to with the.
But it was fun. So that's
no one
that's
knows
a
how
beer
to
we
say
did
Goze
with our
anyways, so it's
right.
fine.
Yeah, nobody knows. But that was a beer we did with our AV club, and
cool.
the AV club we had a meeting here in this room. So we have what we call an AV club meeting once a month, and basically it's all the AV club members come out. It's like part bottle share and part just like fun get together and
yeah, I've heard
everything
about
for our
these.
mug club members.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And so we just did like a show of hands recipe development that going into it, we all thought we're just going to end up making an IPA. Like it's going to either be a West Coast IPA or a black IPA. We thought because we were like, this club, I think there's been people talking about black IPA. We're going to go that way.
But no.
Long story short, like we do the style voting and sour wins. And we're like, really? and so we're like,
yeah, right.
Amazing.
we're like, where do we go from here? How do we, because we were going to do like, if IPA won, then we can, divide it up into like West Coast IPA, hazy,
And you were planning to
black
sell
IPA.
it easily.
Who's gonna, which one of these styles of IPA would you like to make? And then we go from there, and so we're like sour.
Thank you so
much. Me and Brian, we have this little powwow on the side. We're just like, okay, what is there? We've got like smoothie sour. We've got like kettle sour. We've got like Berliner Weiss. We got Goza. Okay, let's throw those on the board and let's see what happens. And then we come back out and they all voted Goza, and then we were like,
I
now
would
what
vote.
do we
I would
do?
vote Goza.
And so we went, do you want a fruited Goza or a traditional Goza? Traditional Goza wins in a landslide. I'm
Yes.
like, this is the most boring result.
No, it's not boring.
In my opinion.
No.
In my opinion.
I was so excited to see it today.
And then we did the names, and so the two names that faced off were Goza Busters and Gose Canseco, and Jeff. Yes,
And Jeff.
somebody suggested just calling it Jeff. My name is Jeff. That was but yeah, Gose Canseco won. Anyhow.
I'm so happy about
What
that.
are we talking about right now? The
Pandemic?
the emergence of
No,
different
no
styles.
more pandemic
So
Yeah.
the fact that you're drinking a black IPA, you're drinking a Goza. I'm about to crack into. You guys brought. I'll grab this one. You guys
We
brought
just brewed
a
red.
hoppy red ale,
Hoppy, our first
Hoppy
ever
modern
red ale.
yeah.
safe and sound hoppy red, which I'm very excited about. I need to finish the one in front of me here first, but.
So yeah, it's
Is there an emergence in 2025 of the styles that we came to love? Like definitely in the last 5 years, IPA has
Yes.
completely changed.
Yeah.
IPA has become just like a monster, and now you've got these like super clean, crisp Pilsner malt West Coast IPAs everybody's about. You've got, the big double hazies and hype beers are still a thing too, but like IPA dominates. And even us, we have 8 IPAs on right now. None of them are 4 weeks old yet. All of
Yeah.
them are fresh, amazing IPAs, because that's just what flies out of here.
right.
But now, I think we're starting to see. I saw more black IPAs this winter than I've seen in 10 years.
And it seems like there's less of a like it's less cult following, more just like that sounds great.
Yeah.
It's not a hard sell anymore.
Not a hard sell like brown ale.
For instance, brown ale. Yeah,
Thing like
It's a hard sell.
just one example.
People have tried it all, right? And at the end of the day, most of the folks still remember like a good, more classic styles, but now with modern execution, they have slightly different feel to it. But they're good beers.
I would
Yeah.
say that, like, again, just like black IPAs specifically. I know Bearlick did one that I had this year, and I know Trapdoor did one that I had this year. And every black IPA I had this year, I'm like, this is actually even better than I remember.
Yeah.
Because I know that like hop technologies and hop practices, like how we're adding hops to beer, the whole idea of a dip hop, these different hop products, like Hyperboost, Dynaboost,
Yeah.
CGX, Incognito, all of these things have happened in the last 5 years. Now we're applying that to black IPA, and the
Or like
results
or
are
a
way
red ale.
better than I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm excited to drink this hoppy red that you brought, because I haven't had like a modern red ale. I don't know the last time I had a red ale.
So I think that's what like that would be considered as like a modern red ale. Like it's got the like. Yark, you talk about the red ale. You're the brewer.
I'm
Yeah.
drinking
I
this
was
as
gonna
fast
say
as I
something,
can
but
so
like-
I can get to
like
the
what
red
makes
ale.
a red ale? It's like it's the malt, right?
It's the malt bill, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're using like quite a bit of like a darker, more malted grains in order to get some of the color and also like a flavor compounds. And you use for our one we use combination of like a good like classic hops.
And what would a red ale have like hop wise included 15 years ago or 20 years ago? Just like less hops, less going on.
A lot of IBUs and a lot of probably C hops. Yeah. You
Yeah.
know, malting
Let's look at
technology has changed as well.
Let's look at this red ale. So, other than the malts themselves, is there anything different about this red ale than what you would have done for a West Coast IPA?
Oh, good question.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, we definitely, we wanted to make sure that it's not as dry as our West Coast IPA, so it has a little bit more body, it's a little bit more malty.
A little more residual
Yeah.
sweetness.
Correct, yeah, and it's definitely hoppy, but it will age gracefully for a little bit, and like the malt flavors will come out as well. So,
And I will say, when Jarek brews, or when we brew a beer or release anything, he'll probably bring home a can or two of whatever's newest. And but this red ale, the Safe and Sound, we've been recycling a lot of Safe and Sound cans at home. So
yeah.
yeah.
This is coming
So
home.
it's
It's
approved
in your
by Jarek,
fridge.
yeah.
It's like, yeah, I dig this. Cheers,
Try
guys.
this guy.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Super fun.
Ding, ding, ding.
I'll reach
Cheers, live audience.
All right.
Cheers, guys.
Yeah.
Quite
guys.
simple and effective red ale.
Yeah.
This is actually our first red ale we've ever brewed. We've been talking about it for a couple of years to finally happen.
I do get that sweetness.
That phrase that you just said, I'm hearing that more and more from modern breweries that opened in the last 5 years. This is the first blank
Yeah.
we ever brewed.
Amber, red ale, something like that.
Yeah, might be amber, might be red ale. For us, it's black IPA. We've been telling everybody this is the first black IPA we've ever done. We also did our first, just a month ago, we did our first double IPA, West Coast double IPA we've ever done. We've done many hazy doubles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never done a West
Never
Coast
the West
double.
Coast.
And we did. Do you think that's part of
Cheers, guys.
2025? You think we're going to see more breweries stepping out of the, there's a criticism on modern small breweries. Man, you guys going to make anything else besides the IPA? IPA. That's all you guys ever do. Like that
As they order an IPA.
as they order an IPA,
Yeah.
and as IPAs outsell every other style 10-1. Yes, probably 10-1's probably selling that way short. It's probably about 40-1. It's up there. And so for those that ask, like, why do I see so many IPAs and not these other styles? It's a numbers game for the breweries, for all of us. Like, we know I can make an IPA and my wholesale accounts are going to pick it up. My distribution's going to pick up my new IPA. If I make a amber ale, let's just be real. If I make a brown ale,
That's gonna.
if you would.
who's going to pick this up?
Yeah.
And I mean,
Didn't you?
well, yeah, we've made two of them, but like, let's be real here. Like, pull the curtain all the way back on Weiss Beer's brown ales. Like,
Did you have to drink them all yourself?
I'll tell you about that. I mean, I started a smear campaign against brown ales
I remember.
while Ezra, is a very good friend of mine, a lot of people actually, like, I was getting messages of like, dude, like, you got this beef with Ezra, like, what's it? And I'm like, no, there's actually no beef, and both of us understand there's zero beef. It's all.
But you played it out hard online.
We played it out hard. Like, we went at each other on this whole brown ale topic. And of course, for his birthday last year, a year ago next week, actually, we walked Ezra into Beer Mongers, and there were cans and on draft a beer called Better Than Ezra.
I wish I saw pictures. It looked amazing.
Yeah, it was great. And was that brown ale sold on merit? No. That
No?
brown ale was not sold on the fact that no one ordered that beer going, I like brown ale, and Weiss Beer makes a darn good brown ale, and
They say that now, though.
I'm ordering this because I like brown ale. No, they were ordering it because they saw the feud. They saw the
Drama.
silliness. They saw the drama. They're in on the joke of the beer's called Better Than Ezra.
It was a good name. It was the right name.
Yeah. Well, then we did a fresh hop version, which Ezra hates the term wet hops, so we called it Wetter Than Ezra.
That was the best.
And that was we made 9 fresh hop beers that we could not even keep around. Like, they disappeared. We made 9 fresh hop beers. 8 of them disappeared in 10 to 20 days. Just and Wetter Than Ezra
Lingered.
kind of stuck around. It's like, here I am. I'm a fresh hop brown ale.
Well, I will
What's
say,
up?
I mean, like, what if you ever try to find a brown ale? If you actually want one, it's not the easiest to find. And for instance, I happened to be at Belmont Station earlier today,
Wow.
scouring the shelves for brown ale. I had to ask for help.
You actually went to Belmont Station and said, "Sir, can you help me find a brown ale?"
I did. I said, "Hello,
Wow.
I really need a brown ale in a can or bottle." And he went through the whole store. He only found one.
They
I
were all
brought it for
sold
you.
out,
Well,
but they got a fresh
they must have been
delivery
all
from.
sold out. They must have
man.
been all sold out except for this can from Public Coast Brewing, which I really love their brewery.
I
And
love Public
Yeah.
Coast.
They did a
Just
coconut
freshly
brown
delivered.
ale, and I bet it's great.
They put coconut in a brown ale?
People do that. But I saw it and I thought of you, and I thought you would absolutely love it. And I was like,
You thought wrong.
Well, I was shopping for this, and I was thinking about, like Belmont Station, their store is organized by like beer style, right? So you have the IPA section, the sours, the lagers, the brown ales.
This was in
And-
this was in like the restroom, right?
Closer to the restroom.
Lost
but
and found section.
I was thinking like shopping for beer in like a bottle shop is not unsimilar to like the greeting card aisle at the grocery store, right? And so it's like
Yeah.
you go to, the IPAs, if like greeting card wise, they're kind of like the birthday card section, right? They're like happy, they're colorful, they're energetic, and then there's always like a seasonal wall,
yeah.
like whatever big holiday is coming
Right,
up, like
right.
like a wall of pumpkin
Yeah.
beers of how
Right
whatever.
now, there's just Valentine's Day
Yeah.
cards there.
And I was like, well, what would be like the
Yeah.
brown ale section? It's like deepest condolences.
it would be. It would be.
Nice.
Sorry for your loss.
there you go. There's the beer for you. We can try it tonight.
Public
No, we don't have
Coast.
to.
Yeah, we do. We have to
Yeah.
open this.
I mean, if anyone's going to do a good
This
coconut
literally
brown ale, it's Public
should be-
Coast. I trust them.
You posted about this on social media, and I commented on it, and I said, I was like, wow, like not only a brown ale, but you put coconut in the brown ale. That did not help. I'm not a fan of
Agree
coconut.
to disagree.
I'm not a fan of coconut.
So if we,
But then I said, if you just put oysters in this too, you could go ahead and call it my funeral, because that's just like my absolute
R.I.P.
nightmare. Is like that's the only other thing I can think of that I hate more than brown ales and coconut.
Well, why would you put
is
oyster with
oysters.
coconut? No one would do that.
Why would you?
No one would do
why
that.
would you consume any of the three at all?
Maybe someone listening to this podcast will be like, "We did that," but they're not going to raise their hand though.
Here we go.
I have always wanted to do like an oyster stout. That's something we haven't done. Here's this coconut brown ale.
You know,
Jarek.
the interesting thing about oyster stouts, I've had a number of oyster stouts, particularly one that Fort George used to
Thank
do
you.
like more regularly. I've had several times, and I don't know whether they call it oyster stouts. I guess it has oyster in it somehow. I don't
I mean,
I
they
don't
do.
get any. I don't get any like sea boogers, like in any way. I don't
Yeah.
get that. You know,
you don't get the funk.
no.
What do you get oyster wise from an oyster stout? It's like a little like.
There's like
it's just like a
salinity. They
okay.
say
Salinity.
Yeah,
Salinity.
so like a little saltiness or
A little
something.
bit
Not, I wouldn't even
minerality.
say, I wouldn't
briny.
say briny. I, like,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe.
Which
Maybe.
here goes coconut brown ale.
I think it's delicious.
Lord help us all.
Very coconutty.
I think the coconut helps with the brown. What do you think?
That
the face
is
is hard to read.
That is weird.
Oh.
Not in a bad way. Not in a bad way. Like it's not what I expected at all. Wow, it is incredibly sweet.
It's vanilla-y.
Very vanilla coconut. I'm not even picking up on much of a brown ale, other than I can look at it and tell you that it's brown.
It's brown in color, but I can't taste any brown ale.
Yeah. It's not brown ale. It's very coconut. And very toasted coconut, which I would say,
Can see that.
as coconut goes, toasted coconut is
Always
better.
preferred.
Yeah. Little caramelization. So
More complexity.
I'm getting a lot of vanilla, caramel, coconut.
I'm hearing that you like it.
I wouldn't drain pour it.
I'll take that. You're welcome.
No, it's interesting. I don't know if I would sit down to a pint of it either. You know, it's in that like zone
Share
of
it
like
with friends.
This
Share
is
it
a
with
nice
friends.
little. We divided this up into like 4 ounces each.
Yeah.
and that's about what I need. That's about right.
I keep sipping from it. I keep coming back to it. Well,
Yeah, that's on you.
only brown ale at Belmont Station right now, so get it while you can.
That's interesting. Okay. I don't know if 2025 is going to have a lot of coconut brown ales.
All you need is one good one.
Yeah. I don't, it's all right. It's all right. So we're talking about this year, this present time, and navigating the future here and what's happened. Like, people have seen the articles. Like right after January 1st, all the articles hit like craft beer's down and all this is down. And these different things, and like it sounds doom and gloom. I look at those and I've commented on several of them online and tried to add some perspective and context out there that when you see these things, a lot of these statistics that the Brewers Association is able to collect come from like the most rich data we have in the beer industry comes from the grocery store aisles. That is where the most data comes from. So when you see, it was 6 months ago, there was data published on like beer styles in 2024 and like what's dominating beer styles and what has the most growth in beer styles. West Coast Double IPA was number 1 on growth of beer style.
Because grocery stores.
Because grocery
Yeah.
stores. Haven't we seen like the breweries that are much larger than ours? So you guys are on a 10-barrel system, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, we're on a 7-barrel system at Weiss Beer. Your guys' fermentation is, you've got how many 10-barrel vessels?
We
have
like
4 10-barrel vessels. We have 2 15s. Those are uni tanks or fermenters or brights. And then we have 3 specifically dedicated bright tanks.
Okay. Yeah, so you've got 4 10s and 2 15s. We have right behind us here 4 7s and 2 15s.
15s, yeah.
So we're not that far different from like cellar space of what we can produce in a year. That's very different than Pelican Brewing Company, let's say, who is on a 75-barrel system.
Yeah.
Brewing into
Much bigger than us.
Much bigger.
Is that bigger than like, I don't know if you know, like a Breakside or?
I don't know exactly what Breakside brews on.
Yeah.
I couldn't say that
Maybe somewhere like
confidently.
around
I would guess Breakside's in the neighborhood of 30 to 50. I would
Yeah.
guess one of those two, if I was forced to. But I also know like Breakside still. They still brew out of their Deacom location and Northwest. I know it's not that big. I think it's a 15-barrel system in
It
Northwest.
feels big to us every time we go there. It feels enormous.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we look at it and go, wow,
Yeah.
so much beer. Where does it even all go? But yeah, so you look at like a Pelican, and this has been true of Pelican for almost 10 years running now, that their flagship beer has become Beak Breaker, which is a 9.3% double IPA.
What?
They just came out, like just this week, announced that they're doing Hazy Beak Breaker, which is a hazy
Like a triple-
double IPA.
A double hazy?
Yeah, at almost, I think it's also 9%. I don't know for sure, but
And they can, because so much of their sales are grocery, they can.
yeah,
They
not
can
only
move that.
grocery and C-store, where shoppers are often looking at the value per ABV. They're looking
That's what I've heard.
yeah,
And it's like the sense that, they're taking it home. So
Yep.
you're not worried about drinking it at the
Yep.
bar.
yeah,
So that's like the thinking behind it,
yeah.
which makes sense.
Yeah, they're looking at, if I'm going to spend $5.50, $6, $6.50 on a can of beer that's craft beer, where's my value at? And that's why that segment grew.
That does make sense.
Yeah, which
and like if you're and why like a double West Coast or double hazy IPA is selling more than like an imperial stout, because imperial stouts are kind of a lot to swallow anyways, but you can take down a 8 or 9%.
And oftentimes when you see an imperial stout at that 10 or 11% range, then it's also barrel aged. It's probably not in the C-store. It might be on the grocery store.
Yeah.
And it's probably like an $8 or $9 can, right? Because it's like a specialty thing.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you're just comparing apples to apples on, in the grocery store aisle, I'm trying to get my bang for my buck. You're gonna reach for those things.
Yeah.
Which we've seen now, even like New Belgium with the Voodoo Ranger series and things like that. Like that's coming into the grocery store. When you're in the grocery store, there's really kind of become this like divide where you're either looking for cheap lagers. I want my $10 six pack of something inexpensive and crushable lager, or if I'm gonna spend that $5 or $6 a can, I want my bang for my buck on the ABV. And I think we're kind of seeing that for the big guys. And that plays into the other like growth segment that the Brewers Association talked about, which neither of us have tapped into this market of 19.2 ounce cans.
Yeah.
I hear there's a market for it, but
It's in places that I don't think either of us really play.
no, and we can't.
Yeah.
So it's it's for the convenience stores, but I don't know, like I don't know if this is real like a good reference or not, but when we were in Vegas this last year for like CBC for the Craft Brewers Conference, there were so many like 19.2 or larger format, and
Those were bigger.
Of like Stone
Yeah.
and Lagunitas and
I mean, what
even
were the
like
brands?
domestic, not even craft, but
even the Modelo's
Yeah.
and stuff are 19.2 in Vegas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not our wheelhouse. Like we can't,
Yeah.
sell in those circles. But
When I'm in Vegas, it's my wheelhouse.
yeah.
But not the rest of the time.
I mean, not from a business perspective.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
interesting
No,
to go
no.
somewhere else other than maybe Portland and just see what's selling and what's like succeeding. And
But that's like different level of the game, in craft beer world.
Yeah.
19.2s, you know.
Yeah, but I would say like I don't think we brewed a double anything in a long time, and sometimes I feel like even pushing above 7% on our IPAs is like a lot to ask of our customers. So I was like looking at our can right here, like we brought the Grand Fur collaboration that we did.
7%.
7%, yeah, and I
Yeah.
think that's like the most we wanted to really do. But it's nice to have a little maltiness there.
The
but
hoppy red 6%
yeah.
on the nose. Yeah.
We're
But-
trying to find a balance between, you know, brewing for folks that stay at the tap room and, you know, beer that we, like places that we sell our beer to, you know, which is usually
Right.
establishments where people like to go and hang out at. You know, it's difficult to drink.
So that's something that the average beer consumer, that, beer lover who's listening to this podcast right now, like, might not think about. Like, there's a difference between like what we can sell regularly and sell quickly in our own tap rooms versus what sells
On the grocery store shelf.
Grocery store shelves for sure, but even other tap rooms. We've made a number of beers here. One of them's our Cut My Lime. It's a Mexican lager with lime.
Oh yeah, I like that beer.
Yeah. Outside of this place, it's difficult to move that beer.
You think because of its like low ABV?
It's low ABV. It's a lime added lager, so like a fruited lager. It just doesn't do well. Our distributors kind of go, we're good.
But in the tap room, it does great.
But in the tap room, it just cranks. Like it just, we pour a lot of that. Now, part of that might have something to do with the incredible taco truck we have here and our partnership with El Viejon.
Mexican lagers go great with tacos. Every beer goes great with tacos.
That's true.
Yeah.
But that's like, I expect that moves the needle a little bit, but it's just interesting to see something do so well in house. I could probably come up with other examples of things that are not related to the taco truck, but like other beers we've had that we tap it here. Our micro machine. We do a micro machine micro IPA.
Yeah.
It's 3.8%.
Yeah.
And we fly through it here, but then we send it outside of here, and it doesn't
And that's
catch
like
on.
that's like
We've
the
been-
tricky thing when you're at your tap room, your customers are like, bring this back, and you're like, I would, but like I can't, I can't move through it other than the tap room.
I mean, we have examples of beers that you're talking about. We did 3.3% micro IPA called Hopping Massive.
We did that first.
Hopping Massive. I remember that.
The first time we
it was
did
delicious.
that was like maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
We did a couple times, and
the second time it sold much
couple
better
years ago.
too.
everybody
Yeah.
loves it at the tap room. You have bikers, runners, and like just walkers coming in, people drinking it. So many hops like for the double IPA, just like a super soft 3.3% hazy micro IPA, delicious. If you love hops, that's the beer for you.
But that is like
it's difficult to move it because when you sell it to other places, the ABV is too low.
But also, I mean, it has as much hops as a regular IPA, which means you have to like price it higher. But it's got the low ABV, so people are like, meh. So like that's the problem too. Like you make
Right.
it,
Yeah,
And
just
not
because
just
it's a low
style.
just because it's a low ABV doesn't necessarily mean that
It's
took
cheap to
less
make.
effort or less ingredients.
Yeah.
It took very similar ingredients to make that as it did the West Coast
Right.
IPA.
So that's like the challenge of like communicating that, I guess.
It's easy at the tap room because we have a control over it, right? But it's difficult to like persuade other folks. Another example, Grodziskie, amazing beer that originated in Poland, where I'm from. Super light, gently smoked wheat beer.
Which,
That's really
by
refreshing.
the way, all credit to Threshold for repopularizing Grajewskia
We played a part,
To-
but
We
not.
played a
We
part
can't take full
to the world.
responsibility.
No,
To the world.
I'm giving you full responsibility.
To the world.
Great Notion doesn't make a Grajewskia without Threshold making a Grajewskia. Like
Oh.
it's a domino effect, and that domino effect started with Threshold making this smoked light beer. Like, what is it? Like 3.4%.
3.4, yeah. 3.3,
and it's
3.4.
the cruise, you call it.
The cruise, yeah.
And it's just Grajewskia is how it's pronounced. If you're listening to this and don't have visuals, you might have seen this beer and called it a Graditsky.
Or Gratzer.
Or Gratzer.
Or Graz.
Yeah, all of those are wrong. It's pronounced Grajewskia.
Grajewskia.
Grajewskia. Yeah.
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 Amazing.
I learned
Yeah.
from the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think when Jarek, I mean, it doesn't hurt that he's Polish.
Yeah.
Brewing a
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
700-year-old Polish style beer. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that was, it's a beautiful beer, and we brew it these days. And I've talked to other brewers, like I know Von Ebert does one. I know Living House does one, and we've
Yeah.
all kind of like concurred, like
Steeplejack
like
does
you
one.
can, you can
does
get away with
one.
it
Yeah.
like one batch a year
Yeah.
because of it's
It
ABV
doesn't-
and it's harder to sell.
It
But
doesn't move super fast, but
we all want it to. But
It's been getting
Yeah.
some momentum, which is great, and we've been trying to do our parts. Been
I
trying
love
to
it.
like
I do too.
get some folks from Poland to help us out. We
you guys did the Grajewskia event. What was that, like in June? That was a Portland Beer Week event?
That was in May,
May.
right after CBC, because everyone was like all the Polish guys were like stateside for
Okay,
CBC,
yeah,
so
yeah,
they
yeah,
came
yeah.
up right afterwards.
That was such a cool event.
That was
Like,
cool.
Just to
Yeah.
listen to all these Polish hop growers
Yeah.
and
And it
Polish
was-
brewers
and it was
talk
Browar
about this
Grodzisk that was in
very
town.
specific style of beer, and then they even brought bottles of
Yeah.
Grajewskia from Poland.
Yeah.
So we got to taste that next to your
Yeah.
Grajewskia.
That's like the most fun part, right? Like
Try to say Grajewskia like 5 times fast.
Grajewskia,
Yeah.
After
Grajewskia,
3
Grajewskia,
beers.
Grajewskia, Grajewskia.
Doesn't work out too well.
it's I call it like we call it Polish lawnmower beer, because
Yeah.
like low ABV. It's super bright and easy. It's smoky, but it's really delicate.
It's a very delicate smoke. It's just like this essence of smoke
Yeah.
over this like
The smoke kind of goes
it's
away
like a
after
wheat
2-3
character. There's a
sips.
wheat in the malt bill too.
It's
100%.
It's 100% wheat.
100%.
Oh, well, there you go.
Oak smoked
Yeah.
wheat.
Yeah, oak
Yeah.
smoked wheat. It's so good. If you can find yourself a Grajewskia, go get it.
Yeah. Rumor has
Brewed
it
with
that
Polish hops.
Brewed with
And-
Polish hops
yes.
helps too.
Rumor has it that we might host the first Grodziskie Invitational Fest in Portland in a few months once the weather opens
I mean, well,
up.
we kind of did that like tentatively last year, but we just so speaking of like the guys that were in town for
Yeah.
the Grodziskie Day back in May, they and more flew out just a week and a half ago for our Baltic Porter Invitational that we held at Threshold for Baltic Porter Day.
That looks so awesome.
It was the 10th annual Baltic Porter Day. These guys like flew in. There were like twice as many as I thought there would be. There would be like 10 of them. They showed up. They had graciously agreed to bring some Baltic Porter bottles, like special stuff. But I was picturing like maybe 5 or 6 bottles. So I really undersold it online. But they came and they brought like over 3 dozen
Wow.
bottle, and like not even cans, like bottles, right? Like they're very
Yeah.
heavy. And so it was this incredible, we had 10 Pacific Northwest brewed Baltic porters on tap.
Awesome.
from Oregon and Washington.
From
which was
breweries
super
around
cool.
the Northwest. And then in the back of the brew house, our brew house, we had this like amazing table like covered with really, really beautiful Baltic porters. And we were so sad you couldn't make it. You
It
would have
was
loved
super fun to like compare Baltic porters brewed here
Yeah.
and then stuff that the guys brought from Poland. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was the fun part.
That and that's incredible, and that goes back to like we were talking about 2025, like, is 2025 the year of different styles making their reemergence? Like, it's really fun to see you guys do a Baltic Porter Day, which is a style that,
Got a Baltic Porter fan out there.
applause from the live audience. Like, to do a Baltic Porter Day, so rad. To do a Draguskia Day, don't threaten me with a good time. We might make a Draguskia. I could do that.
I think we're definitely going to bring it back.
Like that is just a fun. It's a fun thing. It's a fun thing, I think, for the beer industry and the beer world. Like, I'd encourage everybody listening, like, you know, branch out a little more. Try a little something different more often. You know, before COVID, there was a whole lot more diversity of styles out there. COVID kind of zeroed us in on
what could sell, what
sells.
Yeah.
It was all
everything's tight.
Yep, everything was tight. I hate to say that, like, it was all about money, but it wasn't really all about money. It was all about staying alive. Yes, it was
Staying
all
afloat,
about survival. It was all about, gosh, if I'm going to brew something, I'm going to put the ingredients into something. Do I put that into a Baltic Porter that's going to take me 4 or 5 months to move through the whole batch, or do I put that into a West Coast IPA that's going to be in and out of here in 45 days?
Yeah.
And
I mean, thankfully, styles like Grodziskia and Baltic Porter have a longer shelf life.
They do.
So yeah. I mean, they're like low, minimal.
They
hops.
do, but when you're in survival mode, you're not thinking about, what's my tap list look like 5 months from now?
Yeah.
Is there certain styles that are going to live longer on my tap list, and I'll leave them up there for 4 months, and that'll be fine. I'm okay with that for that style. You're thinking about, I'm going to make this batch of beer, and I want to sell this batch of beer as quick as humanly possible.
I mean, if you see them, you know that whoever brewed it was very, very, very passionate and persuasive about it, like with whoever they're answering to.
And we often
if they
take
don't
a
answer
risk.
to anyone, then you just
And we're a relatively small brewery, 10 barrel. Our production is not even 1,000 barrels, and we take risks because we hope that we can introduce customers to new styles. We can make an impactful memories, and do something different.
At the end of the day, 10 barrels of beer for us, 7 barrels of beer, it's a drop in the bucket for the greater Pacific Northwest beer market. For us to make a fresh hop brown ale is just a ridiculous thing to do, and not something you're not going to see Deschutes do that on a 90 barrel system. You're not going to see bigger breweries do that on these giant systems.
Right.
But as smaller breweries, we can kind of do that. So smaller breweries are also far more dependent on the foot traffic through their door. That means much more to a Vice or Threshold.
It's hard. It's good.
A Ruse, a Trapdoor. All of us are smaller.
Yeah. But I think, it's like, because we're so dependent on taproom traffic, we work doubly extra hard to, create a good environment, do interesting events, all the stuff that bigger breweries probably don't have to focus on. And I think it's a harder path. Like, I can say that. Like, I do all of our events, and it's like, it's relentless. It's like, it's like week after week after week after, and it's a lot of planning, it's a lot of communication. But you get that, like, community because of it. Right. So.
And that's the payoff.
That's the payoff.
I mean, I 100% agree with that. I think, smaller breweries need to be leaning into creative events. Like, what can you do? I love something that Gigantic Brewing is doing next weekend. It coincides.
They're always doing. Yeah,
They're always doing
they're
some
my
weird
role
events.
model. Yeah.
Yeah. They're always doing some weird events, but it coincides with your anniversary event. But they're doing a hibernation liberation event. The whole idea being like coming out of dry January, coming out of hibernation.
Yeah.
It's the hibernation liberation, and it's like a dance party. They're serving oysters, which
You're
is
not
gross.
gonna you're not gonna go.
I'm definitely going to Threshold's anniversary party that day.
Saturday, February 8th.
I might stop by Gigantic and say hi. I'll have a beer and not an oyster.
I love oysters.
But we have an event here at Vice as well. That's me and LD, and then one of our regulars who's done a lot of artwork on our cans, Omar.
Ooh. Cool.
We all have a birthday like in the next few days, so we're
happy
like
birthday.
days apart. Oh, thanks.
Are you getting older?
They're not as happy when you get older. You know, every year you're just like, what? Really? Oh, jeez. How old am I? Ugh.
I still like my birthday.
Anyhow.
So Saturday the 8th is going to be...
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. But, like, we just had this stupid idea to make it a triple birthday. Just like we're calling it Los Tres Amigos birthday party.
Oh, yeah.
And we're all...
And now it's an event, and now you're going to...
Now it's an event.
It's going to be a busy day. It's going to be great.
Yeah, now it's going to be a fun day for people here. And, like,
Yeah.
you know, that's just like the building, the community, you know, that's not an event that, you know... That beer dictated, you know, it's not a beer release. It's not a beer thing.
It's all about friends and
Yeah.
It's about just getting friends
having
together.
people around and like doing something fun. Yeah, family.
And I feel like
Yep.
there's a
Yep.
piece of that that's just, as people talk about like market saturation, and it's like if you think on any given night of the week, any given night of the year, how many people are going out and getting a beer or an alcoholic beverage within 5 miles of your location on any given night? How many are going out that night?
Yep.
So I think about that all the time. Just within 5 miles of here, how many people are going out tonight? This bar, that bar, that bar, that bar. Add them all up. It's thousands of people.
Yep.
So what do I need to do to give them a reason to come here, to be a part of that decision when they're looking on their social media or checking their email or whatever it is, and they're like, oh yeah, going out tonight, gonna grab something, I'm just gonna stop somewhere after work. What do you do to just give that extra reason? And I think that's part of beer in 2025 is, you know, I've talked to other brewers and owners of incredibly exciting breweries. I don't want to name names on this in particular just because I don't want to, you know, reveal
Leave
that
anyone
someone's...
out or...
Yeah, I don't want to reveal that someone's struggling, but like they're breweries that I would say 3 and 4 years ago, people they didn't have to try to sell beer. They made beer and it disappeared, and it just worked, and it was just, you know, there's that terminology of shooting fish in a barrel. It was just like, man, just everything's happening, everything's coming in, everything's wonderful, and then all of a sudden, you know,
things change, the ecosystem changes, and people's habits change, and
Or they're just not as like new as they were, or like whatever it
Maybe
is.
it's a newness thing, but for whatever reason, like you can't. I've seen it even with bottle shops and tap rooms. Again, like won't name names, but like places that just for the last 20 years I've known as like they have the best beer. They have the best tap list in Portland all the time. You know, there's probably 5 places I could name, you know, in Portland that are like my go-to places that I just know. They always have the best tap list. I love them to death. But I'm seeing even those places are like, on this night of the week, we have this going on. On this night of the week, we have this going on. This night, there's more events. There's more reasons to choose us. Reasons to come out beyond the beer.
Right.
Because
which they didn't used to have to do.
They didn't used to have to do that.
Yeah.
Because they just had the best tap list, and you just knew that, and they were
the
just
beer
full
used to
every
be
night.
the primary player in the whole situation, and now the beer almost becomes background for whatever you want to do that particular night, right? So you're looking for some like music or entertainment, or maybe like a food pop-up, or maybe for, I don't know, craft market or trivia night, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, we've noticed, like, even with our, like, you know, weird span where we had a, you know, 2019 first year, and then COVID was, you know, weird in terms of like assessing taproom traffic, but we're doing more events than we've ever done before, because that's what it seems to take to like get people in the door consistently. And sometimes I worry about that a little bit, like, well, for a couple of reasons, but sometimes I worry, you know, like customers that aren't there for the, like, they're the customers that literally like preferred it the old way, where you just come in, have a beer, nothing's going on. And those customers, I think, are a little turned off by constant events. You know, like any given night, you're going to walk in and something is going on. You can't just like sit and have a beer in peace. And I worry about that, like losing that a little bit. But, you know.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong about that. I mean, I'm literally like that's hitting me all at once right now. Like,
you know, like,
and I think about like how we try to mitigate that. I know we've done some events here that have been really exciting because, like, one that I point to was our first year anniversary. This guy approached me and said, "I want to do a VHS swap meet," and I was like,
which sounds cool.
I thought it sounded stupid.
Oh.
I was like, you really think people are gonna come out for that? Like, how's this work? And he was like, don't worry about it. I'll get it together. He's like, I've already, you know, like a couple days later, he was like, I've got 8 vendors on board. It ended up being 10.
and he said, I have this group on IRC. I have channel. It's great.
Yes.
But this was like a customer that
IRC
proposed this
said,
to you?
yeah.
And then the customer like did all the like work, like that's a gift.
Yeah.
That's a gift.
He organized it, and I was like, all right, you know, here's where you'll lay it out. We did it out on the patio and outside and everything that year. And I was like, it's all you, man. And I remember showing up here that day. We opened at 11 a.m., and I showed up at about 10:45, expecting to just see all these vendors still like scrambling to set up or whatever, you know. Nope, all the vendors were locked in, and there was a line out our door to get a beer at 15 minutes before we opened. And I was like, oh, this is a whole different thing. And what it did for us is it brought in a lot of people. If you know Vice Beer, you know we have like this 80s and 90s vibe, and like this little den area in the back where you can watch VHS tapes and stuff. Like there was something that spoke to those people in such a cool way that like so many people I met that day that had never been here before that I see here once a week now. Like they're still here all the time.
That was so on brand for you. I don't know why you were.
They're still bringing their VHS tapes and they're bringing their trinkets and goodies and putting it all over our space. And I'm just like, cool. I'm glad you found your spot. Like that's such a fun thing for that to become a community. And
I think it's events like that. Like it's not the ones that you think are going to go well, or you put tons of work and energy into.
Doesn't have to be trivia or bingo.
Right.
Although our trivia nights, that took a while, but they took off. They got good.
Yeah, ours too. Yeah.
Yeah.
You just got to like keep
Just
going at
gotta
it.
be consistent. Yeah.
But yeah, it's often those like events that are like personally you feel passionate about, and then people tend to follow that.
We're doing a new one here, February 22nd. I got talked into having it's a synthwave night. There's going to be
nice.
2 synthwave artists,
Like back here in the brew house.
Yeah,
with the lights.
I'm not even sure what that means.
I don't know. I do know what it means.
I know what the music sounds like.
I do know what it means.
I'm not exactly sure how someone like plays synthwave here. Is it more than just like pressing play on a computer and it just like goes?
Oh, I thought it was pressing play on the computer.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm excited to see what that looks like.
Yeah.
Because it just, yeah, you know.
You've got like a strobe light back here or something. You've got like a whole. You're Zeppelin. You have everything.
We have a light bar and a fog machine.
You have
and like
you
some
have a
fun
light bar and a
stuff.
fog machine.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
There's some fun stuff, but like
We had a fog machine once at the brewery. I remember now. We got a 911 call.
we have one of our beer tenders here is Nathan, and Nathan he's down at Little Vice a lot. He does $2 Tuesdays down there at Little Vice and does Friday and Saturdays there.
So, like, what do you sell for $2? Like a lager?
No.
$2 Tuesdays. What do you sell?
It's called $2 Tuesday.
Oh, sorry, $2 Tuesday.
Yeah. Because not exactly $2.
$2.
It's $2.50.
Oh.
It's it's $2.50, and it is one select beer each Tuesday. And from the beginning, I said my promise is that we will never use this as a like kill the keg special.
Because that's what I thought it was going to be.
Nope.
No. Okay.
Nope. It is always going to be one of our newer beers. And what we do is we set aside 1 sixtel. And that 1 sixtel for that week is $2.50 a pint. Which,
on Tuesdays.
On Tuesday, which used to be the worst night of the week.
Right.
Now it is usually the best night of the week at Little Vice, and we sell. It's a 11-ounce pour for $2.50, and even though it's $2.50 for that 11-ounce pour, we move that sixtel. It's about 51 pours we get out of that sixtel, and it ends up being almost double of what we would have sold that sixtel for at wholesale.
Yeah.
So we're still
So it still pencils out.
selling that for
Plus, people are they're drinking various other like.
It's about community. It's about bringing the people together and everything. And this last week it was our black IPA, and not everybody wants a black IPA. They still come in. They have one or two $2 Tuesday beers.
That's smart.
But they go on to other things.
I want to steal that a little
It's
bit.
up for grabs. I'm
Okay.
not. I claim no.
You haven't
ownership
trademarked
of
dollar.
it. I have not trademarked $2.
$2.
So see, we don't have 250 pours, but we have pierogi nights on Fridays.
You have what?
Pierogi nights.
Pierogi nights, yeah.
Pierogi,
Yeah.
So
Hell yeah.
that's what's been like really bringing people into the door too. Like everybody knows pierogis. I was born and raised in Poland. Polish food is difficult to like sell, and it doesn't look attractive most of the time.
Wait.
So food as part of this too. You bring up food.
Yeah.
We down at Little Vice are starting to do. This Friday is actually going to be our. We've done a food pop up with El Viejon down there. We're doing a barbecue food pop up with Flavorsmith.
Cool.
And that's going to start a more regular Friday, Saturday night food pop up down there. A trend for 2025 that I see happening is more breweries going away from trying to be a restaurant and brewery and allowing someone else to be their kitchen.
Yeah.
I'm already seeing it happen.
I mean, I saw Gigantic just like about to transition. 'Cause
They
I think-
are.
Well, yeah, like they.
Can we break some news to like a very limited small audience?
You guys listening? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Gigantic Brewing's Hawthorne location.
Well, I saw their post about it, so I don't. Yeah. So I think it's like public knowledge, right? But like when they opened, it was their first location.
You know who
of
it's gonna
three.
be?
No, I don't know that.
Oh, yeah.
No, I don't know
I
that.
do.
I just okay. Oh, go ahead.
I don't think I'll get in trouble.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna do it. It's El Viejon.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's El Viejon
I had no
who
idea.
does
That's
our
so cool.
who does our tacos and everything here.
So they're like
yeah.
growing. They're like hiring.
Yep.
They're like, wow, that's so
Yep.
cool.
El Viejon, they're going to open their first part of March and do a
Wow.
grand opening event March 15th, taking over. So Gigantic's like tried to run their own kitchen there and everything,
Yeah.
you know, and it's
Harder
a
than
lot.
it
When
looks.
yeah. When you're running a brewery, it's a lot to run a kitchen too. It's a whole nother business. It's a whole
Yeah.
nother beast. Excuse me. And I think more and more are figuring that out. You look at Great Notion. Used
Yep.
to run their own kitchen in their Northwest location. Now it's Pizza Thief.
Amazing.
Like
And everyone I
pizza.
talked about there is
Yeah.
just so relieved
Thief.
Oh yeah,
to be able to once again focus just on the beer.
right. It brings the brewery back to focusing on the beer and brings the. So I think a big trend of 2025 is we're going to see more breweries saying, hey, our kitchen is actually this other brand.
Yep.
This other thing lives here with us to do this. We're seeing it with Irrelevant is about to open up here in Vancouver with Goonburger. People are super stoked on that.
Yep.
Like that's a whole cool thing. You're going to see even more of that now, particularly. So the state of Washington, this just came up this week. It's House Bill 1602 is a House bill that is proposing that liquor control rules are not tied to. So currently, I'll try to explain this as easily as I can. So currently, if like with us at Vice Beer, we can sell our beer here ourselves over our counter. We cannot have liquor here in any
Right.
way, shape, or form. No hard alcohol because we do not have a kitchen that serves at least 8 menu items. House Bill 1602 is proposing that a kitchen operated by a different entity but on the same property can serve the purpose of being the kitchen for that whole property.
Which just sounds obvious.
It sounds
but
like a
takes-
no-brainer.
But
Yeah.
it takes, legislation and like a change. Yeah.
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 It's
the whole
just
thing.
one of those rules that's like, why is this a rule? It's always felt that way. It's always been
Yeah.
like, why does this have to be a rule that we have
I guess
to
they
make
have
our
to-
own food under this business license in order to do this thing?
Yeah.
When someone else is here with a different business license doing exactly that.
I'm sure it's like in the law where it has to be like a certain like distance, like with like proximity and like all of that. But
I almost feel like a lot
Right.
of those like lawmakers, they have no idea about socializing and spending time in like special places like breweries and
Yeah.
like places that build community like our places. And they
I'll tell you, we're lucky in Washington that one of our House representatives is Kevin Waters, who is one of the owners of Backwoods Brewing Company. And he is
He has, like, a
done
vested
lot of-
interest.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of good things to. I mean, it's not just a vested interest. I mean, sure, like he wants Backwoods to do well. I'm sure.
I mean, they do their own food, so they're not even
Right, they do their
benefiting
own
from
food.
that.
But he understands. He's been around the
Yeah.
industry and he's seen that with
Yeah.
different tap rooms and stuff where he's like, yeah, these people could have food trucks here and have their brewery here and like all of those rules, particularly with like a second location too. So like with our Little Vice location, because we don't have our own food service there, we can't allow kids there. We're 21 and up there. Like that's not our choice. That's what's prescribed.
the rules.
If we had a food truck there that was tied in with us,
Yep.
and like they are here when we're open, they're open. we would be able to allow kids there because there would be the food service
Yeah.
that's required.
And I think that's that's what we're all facing. Like I saw Living House just introduced like hard liquor in their spot, and like so it's these days it's like you're just trying to not eliminate any customer, right? Like
Right.
they're like we get customers coming in pretty often. They're like, oh, you don't do cocktails. We're gonna go somewhere else.
Or
So it's like you never want to like you just want to be in a space that you can welcome as many people as possible.
Right.
That want
You
to
want
be
to
out.
give everybody that comes in with a group, that group may be led by 2 or 3 strong individuals who love craft beer.
Yeah.
But with them is these other folks that beer's not their thing. How do you keep them there?
Right.
And how do you make sure they will come back next Tuesday or Saturday, right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
How do you make them part of the community? How
Yeah.
do you welcome them in? And I think that opens up a lot of potential avenues. I think that seeing more breweries partnering with outside food vendors that become like these married brands, just like when people come here to Vice and El Viejon, it's about 50-50. There's people who come here for tacos that go, oh, it's at a brewery. Perfect.
Yeah.
And then there's people that come here because, oh, I heard about this brewery.
Yeah.
Sweet. They got some cool tacos. Great. It's a 50-50 thing that goes both ways. And I think you're going to see a lot more of that. We're already seeing that. I think it's going to get turned up. I think places that
like you were saying, like when you think about this place, you're like, the percentage of people that are going out on any given night, giving them a reason to come here.
Yeah.
And there's so many reasons why people wouldn't come here. If you don't have food, if you don't allow kids, if you don't have all of these reasons could turn away like a certain percentage. But if you have those things, then you're, increasing your odds that they're going to make their way over.
You're removing the barriers to them coming to this place. And so, I think that's a big one. I think we're also going to see more breweries and tap rooms introducing, maybe this is an unfortunate thing, but I think we're going to see more breweries and tap rooms introducing hard alcohol, more
I think so.
cocktails on draft or full bar kind of things. I think we're going to see more of that.
And so that's actually an interesting thing for like breweries, because like maybe they don't want to hire like a full-time mixologist and like have to, because once you do something, you're saying we're going to do it well. So if any brewery does that, it means like, okay, we got to do it well.
Yeah.
And the availability of like amazing batch cocktails, straightaway cocktails, like they're fantastic. And that's all you have to do is
I've seen breweries that do they just do
like
a
crack a
really
can, pour it over ice.
refined whiskey list.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like that's their thing.
But just focus on that.
Or I can think of one that does like a really, really well curated tequila list. That's their thing. So it's like you go there and it's like beer, but we also have tequila, and we can do these things with tequila. But they're and
they get known for that, and then they're
still trying to be known for something rather than like try to be everything.
Do it all, yeah.
Yeah, they're either the whiskey place or the tequila place with what they're doing. I've seen that.
I haven't seen that.
times.
I haven't seen that, but that's cool. I like that. We would do vodka, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah, Polish.
Of course.
Yeah. We'd have like an amazing vodka.
What is that
selection.
thing called when we collaborate with Threshold? Which we've done 3 collaborations with Threshold, and each one has involved
Brewer's cocktail.
this little brewer's cocktail that is like. So usually the tradition is to do a hot scotchy. It's usually called, which is hot wort. Yeah, it's hot wort, and we add some whiskey to it on brew day.
Like that's common.
Those guys
very
don't know
common.
what's
Very
up.
common.
But we
have
don't
to
do that.
another
That
collaboration.
is everywhere. So we pull up to Threshold, and Threshold is doing
Mad Dogs.
Mad Dogs. That's what they're
Mad
called.
Dogs.
Yeah.
We do Mad Dogs.
And they're
Yeah.
like chilled wort. You had ice, and you took the wort and you chilled it with ice.
Yeah.
What else did you do?
Well, it's like super cool looking shot. So
It's,
that
clear,
comes
it's a tall, clear
flute.
shot glass, and it's got like
Yeah.
the layers.
So
the
it comes
visible
from
layers.
my early days when I was, in college in Poland, Fun days, you're 18, you can actually drink and
I
stuff.
don't think Polish
but
brewers actually do this at their brew houses, but we serve.
Well-
In Poland.
Yeah. So long story short, it's a shot, and it's pretty much raspberry syrup, wort, good quality potato vodka from Poland, and a little bit of Tabasco sauce. And it's
Yeah,
chilled.
Tabasco sauce.
You
Kind
could, like,
of.
follow with
And I will say,
so-
but doable.
you said you wanted to talk about Whitney Burnside.
Oh yeah, we didn't get to
She
that.
doesn't do she doesn't do shots, but on the Brew Day collaboration that we did with them for our
looks pretty, tastes
couples
great.
therapy
It's
release,
good.
she caved
She did it.
and she liked it.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
better
Yeah.
than coffee in the morning.
It blew my
you do
mind.
it
I was
and
like,
wakes you up.
this is
You get like goosebumps.
raspberry syrup.
It's good.
Yeah.
It sounds
Well,
weird, but
That's
it's
crazy.
good. I promise.
Because of like the gravity, it ends with the syrup, and so you get like the sweet and a little bit of Tabasco spice. So I don't think you even taste the vodka. It goes down really
No.
easy.
It was crazy. It was so good.
and small amounts. It's like a shot glass. What is it, like 3 ounces?
It's like 3 ounces. Yeah. It was so good.
Spicy.
That
Spicy's
is my yeah.
We adjust
I
spiciness
almost said
level.
that's my favorite part of brewing with Threshold, but no. There's these two people
There are
my
a lot of
favorite
great
part
parts.
of.
Oh.
Yeah, that's way better. You don't have to entice me with Mad Dog shots to hang
We
out with
still
you guys.
will. We still will.
But they're really good. They're really good. We mentioned Whitney Burnside. The first beer I drank here today was this Couples Therapy. Couples Therapy is a 6th anniversary West Coast IPA that you guys did.
Yeah.
It's official party releases for the anniversary party on the 8th.
Awesome.
And Whitney and Doug, who opened Grand Fur 2 years ago, came over with their amazing daughter Annie, and we had a beautiful brew day. And we, along the way, kind of got into and you'll relate to this too, Michael and Bria, but it can be challenging to be married to
Yeah.
your
Run a
business partner.
Yeah.
And so hence the name Couples Therapy, because there's some trauma. There's some stuff. And
It happens.
but if you have couples therapy,
Out now.
you can make it last. Yeah. Yeah. Whitney and Doug are a dream, and Doug, who is a very, very great chef, renowned chef. He hails from Texas. Does amazing thing with meats, and he shot up his hand. He volunteered. He's going to roll his smoker out to Threshold for the party
Oh, wow. Okay.
and do me. I wanted to say this in the
Okay.
very beginning, so I hope everyone listened through to the very end.
I hope so.
I hope so. He's going to roll his smoker all the way out for the party and do
So we got
something
some
special.
Dougie's smoked meats.
Yeah. Saturday, February 8th. I've been
February
telling you guys all
February
night.
8th.
Saturday, February 8th, the party.
At the anniversary party for Threshold. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
I know they will.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
I'm super stoked on that. We've talked about a lot of things. I guess the only other thing, which is kind of a downer, but 2024 was the first year since, I believe it was since 2008, that more breweries closed
Yeah.
in the U.S. than opened. I see that as a trend that continues. I unfortunately see that as a trend that is going to eliminate two types of breweries. Breweries that don't have good brewing practices and breweries that don't have good business practices. Those are the two things that tend to eliminate a brewery, and that I think is what we're going to see more of.
Or just bad luck, you know? Like,
that can happen.
Yeah.
That can happen. I mean, we saw closures here in 2024 that were a result of you're at the end of your lease and the landlord has decided to demolish your building to build a large mixed-use space that's going to be, you know, retail on the bottom and eight floors of apartments above it.
Yeah.
And so your one-story small space is not going to be there anymore. We have seen that.
Yeah.
That would be bad luck.
Or, you know, businesses that were based on conditions in, you know, before COVID, and now, you know, whether it's location or whatever,
Right.
location that used to be good, now it's not so good.
Yeah.
That's hard too. Anyway, yeah, lots of reasons.
Yeah.
We plan to stick around, but I will say it's like it never gets easy,
Right.
and it only gets harder.
Neither of us is printing money, and
No one's printing money.
We're not going on wild, extravagant vacations,
No.
and
I see the trend of small brewers taking over, you know.
You see
People
that?
passionate about doing what they do and, you know, supporting the community. And
I've said it many
Working.
times. I think that breweries are becoming what we're about 20 years behind coffee. And if you look at what coffee was doing in the late 90s, early 2000s, it was becoming that community space that was suddenly on every corner. Like you used to have to look for a coffee shop, and then all of a sudden it was everywhere. You couldn't go to the grocery store and not there's a coffee shop.
Right.
And I think beer is kind of becoming that, where it's more readily available. But with that, there is going to be a requirement of quality from the consumer. I think the consumers are getting smarter to go, hey, this is good beer, and this is not as good, and this doesn't quite justify my expenditure, my $7, $8 pint.
yeah.
I don't feel good about it.
Kind of reminds me of, you know,
But
80s, 90s, you know, one summer hits, you know, and things become hot, and, you know, there's a really good song and like goes away and nobody hears it.
Right, you
again
have those
next
one-hit
year.
wonders of
One-year wonders.
Yeah, I think there may be some of those. You know, I think there are a lot of breweries. There is a saturation kind of effect.
Yeah.
But
I think everyone's surprised it didn't happen sooner.
True, because I've heard this like brewery bubble conversation was happening in like 2017.
For like the last 10 years. For like the last 10
Oh
years.
yeah, 2015 even.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, when's the brewery bubble gonna hit?
Yeah.
And like, no, we keep opening breweries, and I think it's the accessibility, and I think more breweries are going to be more concentrated on their neighborhood.
Yeah.
And
Smaller
what's,
footprint, leaner.
Yep. Totally.
Yeah.
I think that's what's happening. Is
How did Washington do last year with like closures,
closures,
tap rooms, and
this is something
brewers?
that actually Washington Brewers, we went out to our Washington Brewers Summit, and I had this conversation with several different people. The idea that Oregon does a great job covering their breweries and talking about their breweries. Like, we have New School Beer, we have Willamette Week, we have the Oregonian, which
True.
actually the Oregonian just transitioned their beer writer out of beer writing.
Right.
So
Which
they
is-
don't have a dedicated beer writer anymore.
which is another
Which
kind of
is-
indication
It's
of
a
the
little bit of an
trend.
indicator.
Yeah.
But that all that said is that there are several entities that care enough about the beer industry in Oregon to track things and publish articles like 2024 featured whatever the number was. Here's the closures of 2024. We saw that article from New School
I
not
think it
that
was
long
30,
ago.
35, yeah.
35, yeah. We don't have that in Washington. No one has their thumb on it that closely. Part of that is I know in terms of licensed breweries, there's almost 200 more licensed breweries in Washington than there is in Oregon. So there's a lot more to try to keep your thumb on.
So like Seattle trying to cover or like Vancouver too is a lot.
Yeah. Seattle trying to cover Vancouver, or even, Seattle trying to keep a thumb on what breweries are open or closed in Ellensburg, or way out on the peninsula in Port Angeles.
Yeah.
These are areas that I could name a brewery or two in those areas, but I bet you there's 8 to 10.
Yep.
And I just don't know their names. There's a lot more in Washington.
It used to be easier to keep track of breweries.
It definitely used to be easier. So I think there's more going on in Washington. So yeah, the answer to your question is we don't know. We don't know what closures looked like in Washington. But if I had a little more time to think about it, I could probably come up with a list of a number of them. But it wouldn't be comprehensive in any way. There's just so much going on.
Portland has and continues to have some amazing beer coverage that I don't to me is indispensable. I don't know where we'd be without, New School, Andre, Oregonian, and his predecessor, and Warren, so many folks.
Jeff,
Jeff Allworth,
and then you've even got today we talked about Gigantic's thing they have going on. They were on Coin 6 today. They were they were on the morning show.
Right. They've been hustling hard, honestly. I respect that.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, I love Ben Love's hustle. But the fact that there is something to go on, here in Washington, I don't even know. I try to poke the Columbian.
Yeah.
And they write about us from time to time, but there's not a dedicated food and beverage writer even.
So to me, that's and losing Andre the Oregon, that's concerning to me because the mass public is just, absorbing whatever's out there. And if no one's telling them that beer is important and exciting, then they won't know.
Right. And I think part of it is us as the beer community. When you see something from a Seattle Times or an Oregonian or Willamette Week that relates to beer, share that, that, comment on that. Let those publications know this community's here, and we're thankful to get this news and this information. We like to have this. And of course, as much as I make fun of Ezra, there's not. I've not seen better beer coverage.
Nobody's more dedicated.
From an independent source like that, or even a major source, a major funded source.
Yeah.
I've just not seen someone care about this industry on that level, like them or hate them. Props.
Yeah.
And I do. I like Ezra. Except on the internet, if you see me comment on Ezra's stuff,
that doesn't count.
It doesn't count. Yeah.
Plus, I think he's worse to you than you are to him online. So
it's true. Oh yeah, it's a two-way street. He digs at me 100%, but then he's here a lot, and dude takes me to Denver to go to GABF. So
he does do that.
There's love there, but.
No, it takes passionate. When I think about Jarek and I, or Doug and Whitney, we're waking up every morning. All we're thinking about is threshold, and that's all we think about until we fall asleep. And that's why the business can succeed. I think that's what it honestly takes for a small operation like us. And Ezra goes way back in the industry. You do too, and I think it's the same way for both of you, and that's why, and it shows,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we're so lucky to like have such a passionate community of beer
There
people
is.
and lovers.
And I think that's what's going to make 2025 great is that community. The community of folks that love beer, that are still excited about new beers when they drop, that are still excited about new openings, they're excited about new food pop-ups, new food kitchens, moving into new breweries. Like all of those things adds up to like that passionate community is what's going to keep this scene alive.
And vibrant.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. Dude, this is awesome.
So good.
It's fun. We're probably going to talk more, but
We love beer.
for now, that
Yeah.
was it. That was Overthinkr.